Have you accidentally activated a Lich and turned your earth red, and now you don't know what to do? Or maybe you're just ready to actually start farming those sweet Kuva weapons with innate status effect already on them. Well, I'm Tipsy, and today we'll be going over everything you need to know about hunting your Kuva Lich and acquiring Kuva weapons in Warframe. So remember to like the video and let's just get right into it. Kuva Liches in Warframe are a special mini-boss type of thing you can activate, which will then lock itself onto a specific planet and start stealing resources and loot from missions you complete on that planet. This will continue until you guess the correct sequence for the Lich. If you guess correctly, you will be able to finish the Lich and get all your stolen loot back and obtain the Kuva weapon you came for. If you guess wrong, the Lich will then flee to another planet and continue stealing resources there until you try to guess once again. So having a Lich active and stealing resources is really not that big of a problem, since you will get everything back once you actually complete the Lich, which we will cover in this video today. Lich is also the main way to obtain Kuva and Tenet weapons in Warframe, and these are special variants of normal weapons that look a lot cooler, have better stats, and also come with an innate status effect called the Progenitor Bonus. There's also Kuva Liches and Tenet Sisters, which has their own versions of these weapons, but you can only have one active Lich at a time, so you'll need to finish your current one before getting another one. And I will be covering those in their own guides as well. So to start actually getting your own Kuva weapon, we will first need to spawn in a Kuva Lich, and some of you might already have done this by accident, since that happens a lot the first time around. To spawn a Kuva Lich, you will need to have completed the War Within quest, be at least Master Rank 5 and have your Railjack unlocked. Then Kuva Liches can spawn in Grineer missions above level 20, but not in Sorties, Void Fissures, Invasions, Quest or Dark Sector missions. And you know when a Kuva Lich has a chance to spawn in, and that is when the light starts to flicker yellow. After that you have around 30 seconds to kill 15 enemies, which will then force the Kuva Lich to spawn, and the location will then be marked with a red waypoint. The mission I recommend farming for this is the Cassini on Saturn, since it's a quick capture mission. You'll just have to run through this mission, capture the target, kill enemies until the Kuva Lich spawns, and then you can choose whether to activate it or not. Also keep in mind that you do not have to actually activate the Lich, only mercy killing it will actually spawn the Lich with the weapon shown above its head. So how do we get the right Kuva weapon, since each Lich spawns with a random one? First thing to actually note is you want to bring the correct Warframe for the elemental bonus you actually want on the weapon. The Warframe you use to mercy kill the Lich will actually determine the Progenitor elemental bonus on the weapon. For example, killing it with Rhino will give you impact, while Necros will give it toxin on the weapon. Personally, I recommend going for heat or toxin, since these are the most commonly used in endgame builds. And once you have picked your frame, the weapon shown above the Kuva Lich will still be random, but it will always have the chosen elemental bonus of the frame you are doing it with. There's also a really useful system here. If you see a weapon you don't want, just ignore the Kuva Lich and extract from the mission. Then that weapon will actually be removed from the spawn pool for the future runs you will do. However, if you abort the mission instead, the weapon still stays in the weapon pool, and you can then roll it again if you actually find a Kuva Lich. But if you extract, then the weapon is taken out for the time being. So the best method is to run the mission, check the weapon. If it's not the one you actually want, extract and repeat until you find the weapon you actually want to get. Once you then get the right weapon, mercy kill the Kuva Lich to activate the Lich, and then a Lich will spawn with the weapon of your choice, and also the Progenitor bonus or status effect that you actually have chosen for the frame to do the mercy kill with. Once you have your Kuva Lich, you can then click the little red box in your navigation to actually check out the Progenitor bonus percentage which you rolled. You can also check if you got lucky enough to get Ephemera on your Kuva Lich, which has about a 20% chance to happen. So as mentioned before, the elemental bonus will match the frame you chose to mercy kill the Lich with. And this bonus rolls a random number between 25 and 60%, which is how much elemental bonus the weapon will actually have. This is the equivalent of a random status mod with the same percentage, so the higher the better, but if you roll low you can still farm to actually rise that number, which we will cover in a little bit. The other thing you might roll on your Kuva Lich is something called the Vengeful Ephemera. These are cosmetic effects that will actually be linked to the elemental effect of the frame you have chosen to mercy kill the Lich with. So for example, if you use Necros, which is the toxin one, you will get a toxin elemental bonus, a 20% chance at a Vengeful Toxin Ephemera, and if you used Ember instead, you will get a heat elemental bonus with a 20% chance at the Vengeful Flame Ephemera instead. I will leave a link down below to the Warframe wiki for the Kuva rewards, where you can see all the frames with the elemental effects and also the Kuva weapons and the Ephemera, so you can get an idea of what you can actually get through this. Now, if you did get unlucky and rolled a low elemental bonus on your weapon, there is a mechanic called the Valence fusion that lets you actually work towards raising the percentage on your Kuva weapon, which then caps out at 60%. Valence fusions combine two of the same Kuva, Tenet or Kuva weapon into one with a higher higher elemental bonus, multiplying the highest bonus of the two weapons by 1.1. If you do pick one with a different elemental effect, you will be prompted to choose which of the two effects you want to keep. Also keep in mind that Oricon, Catalyst and Foma and everything else you put onto the weapon do not carry over, so if you have put those things on, you will have to choose the weapon with those things on to keep to not actually lose them. Once you then reach the hack in Warframe 99 and hit rank 5 with them, you can also pick up something called the Elemental Vice from Eleanor for 50,000 standing, and this Elemental Vice can then be applied to any max rank Kuva, Tenet or Kuva weapons, meaning the weapon has 5 Foma on it and has reached rank 40. Applying the Elemental Vice actually lets you freely change the elemental bonus on the weapon, so if you want heat, just choose heat, and if you want to switch it to toxin later on, you can just do so. It is a pretty nice quality of life addition. So in short, use your Valiance Fusion to raise your bonus percentage and then use the Elemental Vice to freely change your elemental bonus. Though keep in mind that the Elemental Vice can only be used on a weapon with 5 Foma. Before we start hunting our Kuva Lich, we'll need to make sure that we have the Requiem mods needed to actually finish the right sequence, since you will need to have 3 of the right mods equipped in the right order to actually finish off your Kuva Lich. This might sound a little bit like a chore at first, but once you have them, it gets a lot easier actually hunting your Kuva Liches going forward. There is 9 Requiem mods in total, but we only need to farm 8 of them, as the last one can only drop from killing your Kuva Lich, and it works like a wildcard mod that counts as any of the other 8 mods basically. And you can only have one of these equipped at a time, and it's called the Owl Requiem mod. So it's a good idea to farm all 8 mods before you start, so you're sure you actually have what is needed once the hunt begins. To get your Requiem mods, we'll need something called the Requiem Eterna Relics, which contain all 8 mods and work kind of like Fisher Relics. You'll run a mission, collect your reactants, and get a random reward from the relic, or choose one of your squad mates' rewards basically. There's also the older Requiem Relics, which only contain 2 Requiem mods in uncommon tier. These can be found at Paladino and Iron Wake after completing the Chains of Harrow quest. But the Requiem Eterna Relics, which contain all 8 mods, drop from Kuva Siphon and Kuva Flood missions upon completion, and these missions can then be found in your alerts tab. The Kuva Siphon missions have a 50% chance to actually give you a relic upon completion, with or without completing the Kuva objective inside the mission. So if you just want to speed through it, go in solo and clear the mission without doing the Kuva objectives to finish it faster, and you still have a chance to get your Requiem relic basically. The Kuva Flood is where enemies are a bit harder to kill and higher level of course, has a 100% chance to actually drop a Requiem Eterna relic upon completion. So all you need to do is run a few Kuva missions, grab your relics, and then run the Kuva Fisher missions found in the Fisher tab. Look for the ones with the Kuva icon to actually open your Requiem relics. You're guaranteed to get one of the 8 mods for each of the relics you open, and if you have a full squad, you can also pick your teammates' rewards, so it should be pretty easy to collect all 8 Requiem mods you actually need from this. Also, as these videos do take some time to make, it would be greatly appreciated if you remember to hit the like button and also subscribe. It really does help the channel a lot, and also let me know in the comments if there's something you'd like to see covered in another video. Now that we have gathered our 8 Requiem mods and have a Lich waiting to be hunted down, we can begin the hunt. With a Lich active, it will influence various missions nodes on a certain planet, and the planet is determined by the Lich current level and can be found by the red fog that appears on the planet and around the missions. These missions with red fog surrounding them will then have an additional variant of the mission, which will usually be a higher level, and in these Kuva missions a new enemy type called the Kuva Thralls will actually show up. They will be marked with a red icon, and once you kill them, they will have to be mercy killed by you or a teammate, and you will then gain a bit of knowledge called the Murmur progression, which will help you figure out which of the Requiem mods are needed to kill your Kuva Lich and guess the right sequence. Once you begin farming your Murmur progress and killing the Thralls, you will slowly gain knowledge about the Requiem mods. But you also start angering your Lich, which you can see by inspecting it in the little red icon area again, where you can see your information about the Lich. It has 5 different anger levels, going from indifferent to annoyed to fuming to furious and finally enraged. The rage meter represents how likely your active Lich is to actually show up in your missions. The angrier the Lich is, the more likely it is to appear basically. I recommend that if your Lich actually does show up before you have your first right mod equipped, or discovered that is, just wait it out and try not to mercy kill it. Hitting your Lich with the wrong Requiem mod will reset the rage meter and also level the Lich up further, making it harder to deal with basically. So if you're stabbing the Lich without knowing any of the correct mods, you're essentially guessing blind, which could be a waste of a stab attempt and make things harder overall for you. Once you then have run a few missions and mercy kill some Thralls, you should notice your Murmur progress has filled up and have unlocked knowledge about one Requiem mod. You can see this inside your Lich inspect window, or where you see your information about the Lich basically. As you fill out your Murmur progress, you will unlock the mods hidden behind them, revealing which mods are needed for your Lich. And with the first mod now known, you can then equip it into your Parison in the first slot. We know it is one of the 3 correct mods, we just don't know which position it needs to be in, if it needs to be in the first, second or third slot yet. Most people start with your first known mod into the first slot, and then once you actually unlock the Owl Requiem mod, you can then choose to put that in the first slot to earn some bonus Kuva when you actually are guessing, because it counts as a correct guess and will give you around 200 Kuva. As you then keep farming Murmur progress with the thralls, you will slowly uncover which mods are needed for your Kuva Lich. Personally, I like to hit the Lich once I know the first mod and it shows up in a mission, as long as there's fewer than 5 missions left on the planet. Now for figuring out the correct order of your Requiem mods. Whenever you stab a Lich, it will show 3 of the slots corresponding to the 3 Requiem mod positions inside your Parison, whatever your guesses were correct or not. If the icon turns white, that means you have guessed correctly on both the mod and the location of that mod. That means the Requiem mod needs to stay in that slot inside your Parison. You then get another chance to stab the Lich again to test the second slot. If it turns white too, you have guessed correctly again and get one more stab. If all 3 stabs are white, you have completed the correct sequence of the Lich and it will flee to a railjack mission where you can finish it off. If however the icon turns red and gets crossed out, that means it is the wrong guess and that mod is not in the correct location. So if you know it's one of the 3 correct mods and it failed, you now know that it is not in the correct slot and it will need to be in one of the other 2 slots. So when stabbing a Lich, you always go from the first mod slot to the second mod spot and then the third mod slot, always left to right basically. Inside the Lich inspect window you can also see your previous guesses, which were right and which were wrong basically. Personally, I stab my Lich the first time as soon as I know the first mod, even if it means leveling it up with a particle guess. Then I wait to stab it again until I know at least 2 of the mods, and depending on the thrall lock, maybe all 3. This way I can use each of the different mercy stabs to actually narrow down the correct locations. For example, if I know the Farce is one of the mods but gets a red cross in the first slot, I know Farces now have to be in second or the third slot. Then next time, if I know Voam is the next correct mod, I will put Voam in the new first slot, and if that hits white, then I know Voam is in the right correction, but Farce then hits red, then I know Farce is not in the first, it's not in the second, but has to be in the third location, and I know Voam is in the first location. That leaves the last mod in slot 2, and that is your correct sequence basically. It might sound a little bit complicated the first time you just hear it, but once you actually go through it yourself, it is actually a pretty simple guessing game. It's very much a learn as you go system that sounds harder than it really is. Then once you have gotten a handle on how the system works, it's just a matter of repeating this progress, killing the thralls, unlocking Murmur progress until you know the 3 mods, and stabbing the Lich to narrow down the correct sequence of the mods. And depending on how lucky you are guessing the right order and how many times you stab the Lich, the fight itself will also vary in difficulty. Liches rank up from 1 to 5, and each rank makes the Lich stronger and higher level. Normally, if you follow the method of stab with 1 mod known, then 2 mods known, and then 3 mods known, you should have the correct sequence figured out by rank 4 at worst case. So just repeating until you have cracked the sequence and finishing off the Lich. Once you then have the Lich sequence and have guessed correctly, it will then make a final stand in a railjack mission, and it is time to actually hunt it down and claim the Kuva weapon you have been working for. I recommend doing this in a public squad if you are having trouble with it, since it is a railjack mission with your Lich as a mini-boss at the end. That said, going in solo can be faster if you are confident in actually being able to solo it, since you only have to deal with your own Kuva Lich and not everyone else's. Just keep in mind that the further the Lich has ranked up, the harder and stronger it becomes. Some Liches can also be very annoying to actually deal with depending on their ability, status effects and so on, so I recommend going in with a tanky frame with a hard-hitting weapon like a shotgun to make things easier. Now lastly, when you kill your Lich, you get 2 options. You can either convert the Lich or vanquish the Lich. Converting the Lich lets you trade it to other players or use it as a crewmate on your railjack, but you will lose out on the weapon and the Ephemera it carries. So I recommend only converting your Lich if you have a very specific reason for it, as most of the time you want to vanquish the Lich to actually get the weapon you're farming for. So pretty much 99% of the time you are going to vanquish it and extract the weapon from the mission, and once you actually vanquish the Lich and extract from the mission, the Kuva Tenet weapon will then be delivered to your Foundry, and you can then claim it whenever you are ready to, or leave it there if you don't have a free weapon slot yet at the moment. Now if you did convert your Lich and you want to sell it, I recommend checking Warframe.market to see what it's going for, but keep in mind that funny names and unusual combos can sometimes give you a nice boost on the sale price. And when it comes to trading a Lich, you will need to head to the dojo, and from there you can fast travel to the Crimson branch where you can request a trade for the Liches with other players. Basically just as trading any other thing in the game, just instead of the trade station you go to the Crimson Crimson Branch instead. But again, I highly recommend just using Vanquish on most of your Liches anyway. That being said, if you actually buy a Kuva Lich from another player, you will get that Lich as a new Lich, kind of like if you just mercy killed a Kuva Larveling. You will get everything from the Kuva Lich, so the name of the Lich you have traded for, the weapon that the Lich had equipped, and also if it had a Ephemera or not. Everything will just convert over to you and you will basically be able to run the Lich as you just had obtained it. Now with that, you should be ready to actually finish up your Lich in Warframe. And hopefully you have gotten the information you came for, and I hope you have found the video helpful. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it really does help a lot. If you want more Warframe tips and tricks, check out my other videos and come join us on the Discord to be part of the community. And again, a big thanks as always to everyone supporting on the Patreon and here on YouTube. Thank you very much. Then all I have to say is stay tuned, stay tipsy, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace out.